This is Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi from Crescent City Retirement Group. When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Anthony provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial concerns and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. And now, here is Retirement Keys with your host, Anthony Congemi.
All right, well, welcome to another show of Retirement Keys. My name's Anthony Congemi, and we have our fabulous co-host, as we do every Sunday morning, Mr. Tony Shore. We're so happy that you're joining us this morning for Retirement Keys. I think we have a pretty good show for you lined up here. But before we get started, let's go ahead and hear from our co-host, Mr. Tony. Tony, how are you?
I am so good, Anthony. Had a great week. We were talking before the show. I helped my son and his wife move. And not a big fan of helping people move, but I've done it a lot over the years, and I think I'm getting a little too old to lift those heavy items up the stairs because today I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
A little bit sore and achy, but I got him all moved in. It was great to see him, and it feels good to be able to help him out. Of course, like you, we love our kids, and it was good to see him. And then we went to a showcase. My daughter is in the swing dance club at her school, St. Thomas University. And so we went to her showcase, and it was a busy weekend and tried to get some things done as well. How about you? What have you been up to? You spent time with the family too, right?
That's right. And like kind of like we were talking about earlier before the show, sometimes the weekends can be a little more hectic. You know, you think about R&R and recharging your batteries and all this on the weekends, and sometimes the weekends are more draining than the work week.
That's the way I felt about this past weekend. Even though I'm glad I did the things I did, and it was great to spend time with family, there was a lot. We packed in a lot this past week and weekend both, and sometimes Saturday and Sunday you think it's going to be about, now I get a chance to do what I want to do, relax. Nope. I have to go back to work on Monday to really get the break I need.
Yeah. So same here, Tony. And, when we talk to clients, I've noticed that people that have retired and that are retired, I wish I had a nickel for every time somebody told me, they didn't know, they don't know how they had any time to go to work. Because they're, so busy in retirement. And, of course, I love to hear that because I know that, we want our clients not only to obviously have their financial ducks in a row and have a great plan, but also be fulfilled in retirement and have those activities that bring them joy and fulfillment. And so that's important too. So the balance, obviously, between rest and then doing things, whatever it is, might be for the family. I was just talking to a client of mine yesterday who was headed to going to Seattle, flying to Seattle, a direct flight, incidentally, from New Orleans to Seattle, and going on an Alaskan cruise.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they were so excited about that. They love cruises. And this is the first time they've done this. But anyway, it's just always brings my heart joy to hear our clients, what they're doing and how they're fulfilling their time. But so anyway, yeah. So you were busy this weekend. I was busy this weekend. As I mentioned, sometimes you got, when you're running around with the kids and doing all the family stuff, sometimes getting back to work is kind of a reprieve, actually.
Yeah. And you don't want to sound selfish, but it's like, if you love your job, sometimes it's like, ooh, good to be back at work on Monday.
That's probably going to be me, Tony. We talk about retirement and how, we want people to retire and be fulfilled in retirement, but I'll be one of these that is going to be hard because I really do enjoy what I,
Oh, me too. I've said this before, I always say this, but as long as my voice holds out, this is what I want to be doing, and I'm going to keep doing it. I don't care if I'm 70 years old, my voice still sounds good enough to do this, and I'm sharp enough to do this, I'll still be doing it because I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
And you're good at it.
Well, yeah, I hope so. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Some days better than others. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But
I'll tell you, like they told me, Tony, you have the face for radio.
I have. They say that about both of us, Anthony, and I don't know why. I don't do camera. I don't do video very well because, they say it's true what they say. The camera adds 100 pounds. So there's that.
So we don't need that.
No, I don't need that. But today we're starting a new series, and we're going to this will cover at least a couple of shows, if not more. We're going to see how far we get, but you have this great new resource for our listeners and for your clients, people you meet with and talk to, and we're going to be giving it away to our listeners today as well. But it's a great document you have. It's a great list. It's called Questions to Ask Before You Retire. And we're going to go through these. There are 20 key questions to ask before you retire, and we're going to talk about each and every one. You don't have to keep notes on the list. We'll give you the list, but we're going to go through it in detail to help you understand it. But these are great. You sent me this list, and I love this. This is really key to having a successful retirement, aren't they?
Well, they really are, Tony. After many, many years of working with retirees, since 1992, actually, you start seeing a pattern of what successful retirements look like, and then what are important, what's important, and what are some of those key questions to ask your financial advisor, your retirement planner. And what I've noticed, even with new, people that come in to visit with us, and that's really why we created these top questions to ask before you retire. This list of questions, it's only 20 of them, but they're pertinent, is because we want, even when we're sitting with a new prospective client, we want them to be armed, if you will, with good questions. Now, of course, if they have other questions, they should bring as many questions to their meetings and their discussion with their financial advisor that they want answered, right? So that's important. But we're just kind of getting you started here. Now, we think these are, I don't know if they're all encompassing, but they're pretty good. And
it's a pretty thorough list, and these are really, really good.
They're really good. And nothing earth shattering. None of these questions are going to be like, oh, wow, this is amazing. But it is fundamentals, right? We're talking about the fundamentals. And so we would just want to go through them, like you say, through this show. We want to talk about them. But we have the questions on our website at crescentcityretirement.com. So it's going to be as easy as our listeners, Tony, to just simply go to the website, click on the button that says Questions to Ask Before You Retire, and then you can just simply download the PDF of the questions. So you'll have them. So as you said, you don't have to worry about writing them down or trying to remember them. We'll be talking through them in these next couple of shows. But by all means, we feel you should have these questions, especially if you're retired or you're planning to retire. So they're on the website at crescentcityretirement.com, and just go to the little button that says Questions to Ask Before You Retire. And you can just print them and get a PDF and print them and download them right to your computer.
That sounds fantastic, and that's great. So, listeners, get a copy of this. It's a great document, and you can get it right there on the website. And what is that website again?
Yeah, so it's crescentcityretirement.com, and there should be a button right on the first page of the website that says Questions to Ask Before You Retire. click on that, and then you can get a download of these questions. And
That's
we really,
awesome.
Tony, you hear people say, or I've said certainly, sometimes and I'm speaking about myself, really. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and sometimes you really don't know what questions to ask. I mean, I was just recently in the market for a camera, and you would think, a simple camera, right? And as it turns out, my phone has better capabilities than this camera I was looking at. But I mean, I didn't know anything about pixels, and I mean, sometimes you go look for an item, and you don't even know what to ask. What's good questions that I should be asking so I can get good information? And so that's why these questions are here for you. We want you to be well equipped to ask good questions when you're meeting with your financial advisor.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dig into this. Let's start. We might as well go right through the list. Like I said, this is going to be a great series because we're going to talk about each one of these, and not necessarily all at length, but we're not just going to read through the list. We're going to stop at each question and say, why do you need to ask that? What are some things about this that we should be aware of? So let's start with the first question. What is it, Anthony?
So the first question on the list is, what estate planning documents should I have to avoid legacy planning mistakes? So what estate planning documents should I have to avoid legacy planning mistakes? And so this is a good question, and it's going to be, the answer is going to depend on your situation, right? So, as an example, I was with some clients just a couple of days ago, latter part of last week, and they have a special needs grandson who they have adopted many years ago. And so obviously their estate planning documents, I mean, we all are going to need some type of a will, I would say, if you live in Louisiana. You're going to need a living will. You're going to need a durable power of attorney. So these are, I would say, pretty universal, that we all need those estate planning documents. But then how beneficiaries are set up in our retirement plans.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be very important. And we can talk about each one of these. And then, of course, and I mentioned this client with the special needs grandson, in their case, they're going to need some type of a trust, right? A special needs trust to set things up for the grandson. That's going to be important. Some other types of trusts. And does everybody need a trust? No. I would say no. I'm just going to piggyback off what our lawyers say. Certainly no. But in certain circumstances, like in this circumstance, there certainly could use a special needs trust. Sometimes people want to set up for minors. They want to set up, a college fund for the grandkids, and they want to make sure those funds go directly to those grandkids and doesn't go through the kids. Kids might get divorced. They might get, they're carving out for the grandkids. If these grandkids are minors, they would need a trust. So I guess what I'm saying, Tony, is, there are these documents out here, whether it be a will, living wills, power of attorneys, beneficiary designations, which are so important.
Yeah.
And some trust documents. But this isn't expensive, but if you don't have your estate planning in order, and then God forbid something happens to you, you transition to this next glorious life that we're hopefully all headed in that direction. You don't want to leave a mess behind, right? And so estate planning is very important. And so the question says, what estate planning documents should I have to avoid legacy planning mistakes? And the first order of business is to determine, and through our family estate planning checklist, to determine how you want things to go. And how you want things to go is going to determine, what estate planning documents are going to be important. And so this is a big part of retirement planning is estate planning. And, some people may have been married, previous marriage or kids from a previous marriage. Well, then that's going to create a separate type of nuance that has to be addressed. Estate planning is very personal because it's not, one size fits all, but there are some key components that if set up properly, then you could just be sure, right? Or rest in the idea that if, the Lord calls you home, you're not leaving a mess behind.
Right. Exactly. Right? That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's huge. And we don't want to leave our loved ones in a bad situation. That's for sure. And that's why we've talked in the past about enhanced planning, estate planning, and legacy planning. Really, you need those ducks in a row. And that's a great first question. What estate planning documents do people need or should they have to avoid legacy planning mistakes? And that ties into the second question people need to ask before they retire, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And let me just say, when you ask the question to whoever you ask it to, your lawyer, your financial advisor, or hopefully both, they're going to have to ask you some questions in order to be able to answer that question. But that's a real important question. And then, yes, to piggyback off of that question, Tony, is question number 2 on the list, which is how do I leverage what I have for wealth transfer? So this question is saying that we're concerned about how do we leverage what we're passing on, right? And so let's assume we're saying, hey, we don't want to, leave a big tax burden to our heirs, or, we're concerned about really leveraging how much our, let's say, spouse or kids or grandkids receive from our estate. If that's important, then this is a good question. Now, with that said, how do I leverage what I have for wealth transfer? Maybe that's not important. Maybe you're somebody that says, I'm going to live and enjoy my life, and I've done enough for everybody, and whatever they get at the end or how they get it is going to be, lagniappe for them, and it's not really that important to me. That's okay. That's fair. So again, the question is, how do I leverage what I have for wealth transfer? And if that's important to you, if you say, we want to live our abundant life, but when we, pass away, I want to make sure my spouse or my kids or my grandkids really get the most from my estate, well, then that's a fair question that deserves some answers.
Well, yeah, it definitely does deserve some answers. And, you make some great points here. This is really critical that people have all their ducks in a row before they retire. It's going to make life so much easier, stress-free. You're going to sleep well at night knowing you've got these things taken care of. You've gotten the answer to these questions, got it all planned out. Let's give that phone number, the web address where they can go and get this document, questions to ask before you retire.
Absolutely. So you just simply can go to our website at crescentcityretirement.com and go right to the little button on the site that says questions to ask before you retire. Click on it, download it, turn it into a PDF, get your questions. And if you'd like a 15-minute consultation, we're happy to go through the questions with you. You can schedule that right on the website. But you might just want to pull the questions down and just have them for your own safekeeping. You don't need to, review them with us. You can review them with your own advisor, but we really think these are going to be critical questions, and there may be others, and you may think of some other questions that you want to ask, of course. But anyway, we think this is going to certainly these 20 questions are going to get you started. So questions to ask before you retire. We would say these are the main questions or some of the main questions to ask your retirement planner, financial advisor before you retire. Go to our website at crescentcityretirement.com and get your copy.
All right. Yep. Just go to crescentcityretirement.com to get your copy of questions to ask before you retire. Now, we've covered a couple questions here. What's next on the list, Anthony?
So, and let me just say, these questions are kind of organized with estate planning. Then we're going to get into healthcare. Then we're going to get into income. Then we're going to get into taxes.
Sure.
And we're going to get into investments. So they're not all wrapped around estate planning, but the first three or four questions are. So the third question is, what are the most tax efficient assets to pass on to my heirs? So kind of, again, piggybacking off of wealth transfer, this question is simply asking, well, if wealth transfer is important to me and estate planning is important to me and how, we transfer these assets, well, then, a good question, a follow-up question would be, well, then what are the most tax efficient assets to pass on to my heirs? That's the question.
Yeah, there you go. That's huge. And so let's move on to question number 4. And this is about beneficiaries, which are very important. And I love this question.
Yeah, so this question number 4, how do I handle a spendthrift, special needs, or minor beneficiary? Now, where this question came from, Tony, is over our many, many years of working with our estate planning attorneys that we partner with and all of the, various estate planning meetings that we've been involved in with the attorneys we partner with. I've found that there's really 3 primary, if someone is going to utilize a trust, at least in our firm and the things that we've experienced, is there's really 3 types of trusts that we see are pretty popular, if you will, and are reoccurring. And that is, and the question is, how do I handle a spendthrift, special needs, or minor beneficiary? So that is all going to wrap around the idea of a trust. So spendthrift, and the name of the trust obviously is a spendthrift trust. But this is somebody that might say throughout the estate planning questions, oh, I have this, my daughter is great with money, or she's just so, meticulous with her budgeting, and she's great with money. But my son, I'm just using the son, he's terrible, right? He'll blow through the money, or this kid is a lot worse with money than that kid, or maybe a grandson or a granddaughter. And so you're passing assets on to someone who you feel would be better served if they had some type of a structured payout, whether it be a monthly payout or an annual payout, or, you're looking to structure payments for this person because you feel it would better serve them. Well, we see that in what we call, you have to, have a trust document for that. And these are called spendthrift trusts. And this is where you can, kind of schedule how things are going to go for that individual.
Yeah, and I think that's key. Well, you know what? We're already out of time for today's show, Anthony. It just flew by. But let's talk about where our listeners can get this list so they can follow along. We're going to continue talking about the list in next week's episode.
Yeah, absolutely. So you could just go to our website at crescentcityretirement.com. And then on the website, you should be able to just download the list. I mean, it's free. We want to offer it to you and as our listeners. And we just think it's very valuable, and so many times, you go into your meeting with your financial advisor, retirement planner, and then you're thinking, okay, well, what are some of the things that are important to us and what questions do we want to ask? And which is obviously, important that you get your questions answered. And so this is just helpful. This will be helpful for you to be able to kind of articulate the questions that are important to you. And then and out of these questions, some may not be important to you, but some may be. And then, as I mentioned, you may have other questions that are not part of this list, but at least this will get you started. So go to crescentcityretirement.com, click on the little button that says questions to ask before you retire. And I might add, even if you are retired, these are going to be applicable questions for a retired person or someone who is looking to retire. So they can go to crescentcityretirement.com and get the questions there.
All right. Sounds great. And listeners, that does it for today's episode of Retirement Keys with Anthony Congemi. Thank you for listening to Retirement Keys. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Anthony Congemi at Crescent City Retirement Group. Call 504-828-2171 or visit the website at crescentcityretirement.com. All matters discussed during this show are for informational purposes only. Each individual situation may vary and the opinions expressed here may not apply to everyone. Materials presented are believed to be from reliable sources and no representations can be made as to its accuracy. All ideas and information should be discussed in detail with one of our qualified representatives prior to implementation. Anthony Congemi and Crescent City Retirement Group are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency.